Hi everyone and welcome back. We're talking about the drought with Sergeant Silva, and you're the
Emergency Services Coordinator.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that, John.
That's okay.
Now, John, we were talking about the impacts here and everywhere and what we needed and things like that. Well, the governor spoke about this, I believe it was last week, and might have been a while back, but what does he recommend?
Yeah, first off, let's back up a little bit into December of last year.
Okay.
On December 17th, the governor formed a task force to deal specifically with the drought. The task force was made up of representatives from all over the state and reaching out to the local areas as well. Since that time, as you know, last week the governor declared a state of emergency specifically for the drought. And there are some specific reasons that he did that. One of the things that he did ask for statewide was a 20% reduction in water voluntarily. And also, too, one of the provisions that the state of emergency will enable him to do is reallocate water distributions. And the important thing with that is with the state of emergency declared, they can bypass certain regulations to get that done.
Okay, well that's a good thing. A lot of the state isn't in, in probably as good a shape as we are, being a county of origin, and getting our water almost like first in line. I know we have, we can only use so much, but we're not dependent on, on the reservoirs right now. Actually, we are. We store it, but. You follow what I'm saying? I do. In all likelihood, areas downstream of us, right, literally and figuratively, may be hurting before we do. We do have, as I'm sure Amador Water Agency has mentioned when Gene has appeared with you, right,
the AWA does have a fairly deep level of water rights for getting water through the Mokelumne system. But again, that's not an infinite supply either.
Right, right.
So, that's certainly a concern. And one thing I'd like to point out with the governor's declaration of a state of emergency is that one thing it doesn't include at this time is CDAA provisions. And what the CDAA is the California Disaster Assistance Act. And that's an important point to make, because when that is enacted, it gives financial assistance to the general public who are impacted by the drought.
Okay, to the general public as well, if that gets enacted. Now, we're talking about this, and of course I'm talking about, I live in the county, so I'm a little bit provincial, but other parts of the state, they're really hurting down in San Joaquin. Right? Yeah, they are. For quite a long time, I believe it's Representative Jim Costa from the southern San Joaquin Valley has been, lobbying for a declaration of a drought emergency at the state level. And of course, the purpose for that is to get water from the Central Valley Water Project down to their area. Down to some of the ag areas that are needed, or there's going to be quite a lot of money lost there. Now, is that what happens from the emergency side of it, from when monies come back in for agriculture, for the losses of their crops, and maybe the ranchers for the losses of their being able to sell? That's what you were speaking of before, right? Yeah, in fact, through the USDA drought declaration that was done last August and again in January, there's provisions within that. Okay. Through the Small Business Administration, there's financial assistance via loans, long-term loans, to businesses that do business with the agricultural and ranching community. Okay. And another thing, like you were mentioning, the difference between an emergency, like a drought, that's very long. It goes on for a long time. Unlike a tornado, a hurricane, or a wildfire, the effects of fire last a lot longer, I think, than maybe some of the others I spoke of. But what do I know? I haven't lived in hurricane country. But you know what I'm saying there. So you might start, a little hurting now, and we might be able to get out of it if we were lucky with nature. But at the same time, if it stays as bad as it is, the conditions will just get worse. Yeah, and that's an important point to make. A certain portion of Australia is just coming out of a 21-year drought. Oh my gosh.
And it's rather sobering to think what the impact would be to our county and the state if we had a drought of that duration.
Well, I'll say, because it's also, the drought is very hard on the forests. And now we're coming into the idea, if we start talking about that in the grasslands, of fire and fire emergencies stemming from there. Does your office go into those kind of plans as well, the evacuation plans, things like that?
Absolutely. We work closely with CDF, with CAL FIRE and the local fire agencies. They really never got out of fire season.
They must be really, I mean, they're got to be geared up right now almost.
Yeah, there's been a number of fires throughout the late fall and the winter time where typically there aren't fires. So, that's a huge concern. And then, of course, you mentioned the impact that it can have on the trees with bark beetle infestations, right, for example.
And then that creates a lot more fire danger with having the trees dead and maybe turning into slag, or what do they call it? Snags, right?
Yeah.
Falling, but then we have a lot of timber that's ready to go up and burn in the forests.
Yeah, and part of the governor's declaration of a drought emergency, it also provides funding for immediately hiring on or hiring back firefighters, so
Okay.
they can be prepared.
Well, that's a good thing to hear. When a fire starts, you don't have time to hire people, I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, how did the Board of Supervisors take to what happened? What are some of the questions they asked you, John?
Well, the presentation went well. We had a roundtable discussion following the presentation. A lot of it is public education, and it's getting people to kind of become aware of it and be able to actually respond appropriately to conserve water. And on the Amador Water Agency website, for example, there's water saving tips, as there is on the State of California website as well, which is saveourwaterh2o.org.
Okay. So people are asked right now for it to be voluntary. How about if it gets worse than that? Then what happens?
Well, that's a good question, and we certainly hope to have a miracle February or a miracle March or a miracle April to help mitigate the effects of this drought. But we have to, hope for the best, plan for the worst. And right now, if you're asking me to kind of hypothesize what the forecast is for the rest of this year, the forecast doesn't look good in terms of us catching up.
Okay.
Well,
I'm trying to think of, we've gone through a drought, I think maybe 4 or 5 years after I first moved up here, so that must have been in the early 90s. And it was a pretty bad drought. We had quite a lot of beetles, lost a lot of trees in the forest. I know you were the upcountry officer, and you certainly probably noticed that. And so that's not like I said, that's just really not a good thing.
Yeah, and we're continuing to monitor things. I'm on a weekly conference call with the governor's office and the Drought Task Force weekly, every Monday, as are the other 58 counties in California. So as information comes down from them, it also gives us a mechanism to put information up to the state level as well.
So basically, your message to them was the conditions, and then people need to get out the information. I guess the main information that everyone needs to know is everybody needs to conserve, whether you're getting water from the Amador County Water Agency here, or if you're on a well using the groundwater to use it sparingly.
Absolutely. Everybody should conserve.
You can go over 20, and I think what I was trying to speak to back to that with that time, I'm not really sure what happened in the cities. The city water. If the people had to use less, like get down to 50%, not water their lawns, not do all sorts of things, so which could trigger right now 20%. I guess you have you can do with whatever 80% what you would like to do with it. But maybe people should be thinking ahead and trying to get to 40 or even conserving more.
Yeah, well, right now it's important to at least, try to cut back. It's also important for the ranching community and agricultural community to understand and be aware that there is financial assistance available through the SBA as well as the Farm Services Agency as well. That's the agency that provides assistance directly to the ranchers and directly to the agricultural interests.
Okay. All right. Well, Sergeant John Silva, thank you very much for talking to us about the drought and things like that. And for everyone, please heed Sergeant John Silva's message and the one that you're probably going to be hearing from the Water Agency, the Board of Supervisors, and all the media here in Amador County. Conserve water, use it wisely, and how about praying for some rainstorms? Maybe get out and do a little Indian rain dance. I think I did that the day before it rained.
Ah, good.
I knew it would work.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, everybody, thanks for watching TSPN, and once again, conserve water.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.